a bill that strengthens U.S. efforts to lean on China to directly negotiate with the Dalai Lama and his envoys to resolve the decades long Tibet dispute is very likely on its way to becoming a law. The House Foreign Affairs Committee voted unanimously at a markup hearing yesterday, approving the bipartisan promoting a resolution to the Tibet-China Dispute Act, known as the Resolve Tibet Act. The primary goal of the eventual act is to pressure China to resume negotiations with the Dalai Lama and his envoys, which have now stalled since 2010. According to International Campaign for Tibet, a Washington based Tibetan advocacy group, and I quote now, among the most shocking of China's ongoing human rights violations in Tibet are its mass collection of DNA from about 1 million Tibetans and its separation of 1 million Tibetan children from their families at state run boarding schools as part of a widespread effort to eliminate Tibet's unique culture, language, and religion. Unquote. The Resolve Tibet Act says China's policies are systematically suppressing the ability of the Tibetan people to preserve their religion, culture, language, history, way of life, and environment. Committee Chairman, Representative Michael McCall, Republican from Texas, had this to say during the markup hearing.
First of all, I want to thank those who have attended that represent the great Tibetan people, the nation that's been oppressed for so many years by the Chinese Communist Party. We welcome you, and we're so glad that we've come to this great day where this committee will pass and move out of this committee this Tibetan resolution that will go to the House floor, pass, and I predict will pass the Senate and be signed into law. And thank you so much for being here. The world is no stranger to the CCP's aggression and excessive claims, and nobody knows that more than the Tibetan people. From ramming Philippine boats to killing Australian servicemen to claiming ownership over Taiwan, the CCP seeks to dominate the entire Indo-Pacific. The CCP has a long and violent record of oppression against the people of Tibet. In October of 1950, Chinese communist troops annexed Tibet, killing tens of thousands of Tibetans and monks. The CCP's ongoing oppression of the people of Tibet ultimately forced the Dalai Lama to flee to India. This persecution has continued to this day. Just last week, the CCP released a white paper on its policies in Tibet. In this document, the party doubles down on its oppression and crackdown on the religious and economic freedom of Tibetan people. Some of the actions taken by the CCP include setting up boarding schools to, quote, re-educate Tibetan children, clamping down on the use of Tibetan language, restricting movement of Tibetans, and even attempting to insert themselves into the secession of the Dalai Lama. Well, thank God the Dalai Lama said that the new Dalai Lama, who will be reborn, will not be born in China. This white paper demonstrates the need for this bill, and I'm proud to have co-introduced it with Representative McGovern. The promoting a resolution to the Tibet-China Dispute Act helps Tibetans in two major ways. First, it pushes back against CCP propaganda about the history of Tibet. The United States has never accepted that, quote, Tibet was part of China since ancient times, unquote, as the CCP falsely claims. This legislation clarifies U.S. policy, highlights the unique language, religion, and culture of the Tibetan people, and directs U.S. diplomacy to push back against CCP propaganda. Additionally, it ensures Tibetans have a say in their own future, not the CCP. This bill stresses the need for a dialogue between the CCP and the democratically elected leaders of Tibet. Any resolution must include the wishes and the voice of the Tibetan people. Tibetans are a democracy-loving people who wish to practice their own religion freely and have their own wishes and desires acknowledged, as we do in the United States of America. The freedoms that we enjoy, we want to be enjoyed by the people of Tibet.
There are expectations that the bill will be signed into a law by President Joe Biden early next year, in the run-up to the 65th anniversary of the Dalai Lama's escape from Tibet and arrival in India on March 26, 1959.